My name is Rosalind Carter. I am 76 years old. And my daughter once looked me in the eyes and said, "You ruined my childhood." She said it loud. She said it with anger. She said it like it was the truth. Before I tell you what she doesn't know, please pause for a moment. If you love deep, emotional stories about strong women, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss what comes next. And tell me in the comments what country you're watching from, so I know who is listening to me right now. Because what I protected my daughter from almost destroyed me. She said it during dinner. No shouting at first. No tears. Just sharp words, thrown like knives. "If you hadn't been so strict," she said, pushing her plate away, "maybe I would have had a normal childhood." Normal. That word hurt more than she knew. I sat there quietly, my fork frozen in my hand. "Normal how?" I asked. She laughed bitterly. Other kids could go places, other kids could stay out late, other kids weren't scared all the time. I swallowed hard. "You think I made you scared?" I asked. She leaned back in her chair. "You were always watching, always saying no, always worried. You treated the world like it was dangerous." I looked at her face. My grown daughter. So confident. So sure. So unaware. "You ruined everything," she added. The room went silent. That was the moment. The moment this story truly begins. Because she has no idea what I stood between her and every single day. I didn't answer her right away. Some truths are too heavy to drop all at once. Instead, I looked down at my hands. Old hands now. Hands with lines and scars and memories. Hands that once shook while locking doors. Hands that held her tight when she slept. "You don't know what I protected you from," I finally said. She rolled her eyes. "Here we go." That hurt. Because if she knew, if she really knew, she would never say my name the same way again. Let me take you back. Way back. Before she ever accused me of ruining anything. She was 6 years old. Small. Quiet. With braids that never stayed neat, no matter how much I tried. Her father had already left by then. Not loudly. Not with shouting. He just stopped coming home. So it was just the two of us. Me and my baby girl. I worked long hours. I cleaned houses during the day and worked nights at a diner. Every smile I gave customers was paid for with tired bones and prayers whispered in bathroom stalls. But no matter how late I came home, I always checked her room first. Always. Because fear lived in my chest back then. A deep fear. One I never spoke out loud. It started with a neighbor. A man who smiled too much. He lived 2 houses down. Always waving. Always offering help. "You got a good little girl," he once said. Something in his voice made my stomach twist. I didn't like how he watched her. So I started saying no more. No to walking alone. No to staying out late. No to sleepovers. I watched everything. I listened. And one night, I heard something I can never forget. I was folding laundry when I heard his voice outside her window. Soft. Calling her name. I froze. My heart started pounding so hard, I thought I might fall. I crept down the hallway and listened. "Come here," he whispered. My hands shook. I didn't scream. I didn't panic. I opened the door and stepped outside slowly, like my fear might scare him off. "What do you want?" I asked. He jumped. Smiled. "Oh, nothing, just talking." Talking. To my child. At night. Through a window. I stood there staring at him until his smile faded. "Stay away from my daughter," I said quietly. He laughed. "You're imagining things." I was. And that was the day I stopped trusting the world. I never told her about that night. I told myself she didn't need to carry that fear. So I carried it for both of us. Every rule I made after that. Every door I locked. Every time I said no. It wasn't control. It was protection. But children don't see danger. They see limits. As she grew older, she got angrier. Why can't I go? Why don't you trust me? You're embarrassing me. I took it all in silence, because the truth was too ugly to explain to a child. So I became the villain instead. The strict mother. The paranoid one. The joy killer. And I accepted it. Because as long as she was safe, I could live with being hated. Now she sat across from me, accusing me. You ruined my childhood, she said again, her voice shaking. I looked at her carefully. You survived it, I replied. She scoffed, barely. That word hit me hard. Barely. She didn't know how close danger came. How many times I stood in its way. How many nights I sat awake listening for footsteps that never came, because I didn't let them. I was just trying to protect you, I said softly. She shook her head. From what, the world? Yes, I replied, from parts of it. She stood up abruptly. You always say that, but you never explain. I stood up too, because this moment had been waiting years to arrive. There are things mothers see, I said, my voice low, that daughters don't. She crossed her arms. Like what? I opened my mouth, then closed it. Because once I said it, everything would change. You don't want to know, I said. She laughed sharply. Try me. I looked into her eyes. And for the first time, I wondered if protecting her silence had gone on too long. I stood between you and someone who wanted to hurt you, I said quietly. Her smile faded. What? She asked. I said no more because someone didn't respect boundaries, I continued. She stared at me. Who? She asked. I didn't answer. My throat felt tight. Mom, she said slowly. Who? I turned away, because the name still tasted like fear. And saying it would open a door I had kept locked for decades. She stepped closer. You're lying. I shook my head. No, I whispered. I was surviving. The room felt heavy. Then she said something that cut deep. If that's true, why didn't you tell me? I closed my eyes. Because the answer was simple. And heartbreaking. Because I didn't want to ruin her childhood with the truth. I already let her blame me instead. I opened my eyes and looked at her. There are things I protected you from, I said slowly, that you were never meant to remember. Her face changed. Confusion. Fear. Doubt. And then she asked the one question I had been afraid of for years. What exactly did he do? My heart stopped, because answering that question would finally show her who I really was, and who I had been fighting alone. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. She stood there waiting for my answer. My daughter. Grown now, taller than me, strong in her own way. But in that moment, she looked like the little girl I once tucked into bed every night. What exactly did he do? She asked again. My mouth went dry. Some memories don't fade. They wait. I sat back down slowly, because my legs suddenly felt weak. I don't know everything, I said carefully, and that's because I stopped it before it went too far. She frowned. Stopped what? I folded my hands together so she wouldn't see them shaking. He was watching you, I said, too closely, too often. She scoffed. Lots of people watched me. I was a kid. This was different, I replied. She crossed her arms. How? I took a deep breath. He waited until I wasn't around, I said. He spoke to you when you were alone. He tested limits. Her face tightened. You never told me that, she said. I know, I replied. Why? She snapped. Why keep that from me? I looked at her. Because I wanted you to feel safe. Because I wanted you to sleep without fear. Because I wanted you to grow up thinking the world was kind. But I didn't say those words yet. Instead, I said, because you were a child. She shook her head. That doesn't make sense. It does to a mother, I replied. She paced the room now, running her hand through her hair. So you just decided to control my life? She asked. No, I said firmly. I decided to guard it. She stopped and looked at me sharply. By turning me into a prisoner. That hurt. I never locked you inside, I said softly. I locked danger out. You don't know that, she replied. I do, I said. She laughed bitterly. Because of one creepy neighbor. One warning was enough, I said, because I saw what you didn't. She leaned forward. What exactly did you see? I closed my eyes. I hadn't planned to say this part. But once truth starts moving, it doesn't stop easily. He followed you once, I said quietly. Her breath caught. What? You were walking home from school, I continued. I was behind you, far enough that you didn't notice. She stared at me. He slowed his car when he passed you, I said. Rolled the window down, called your name. Her face went pale. I ran, I said. I stood between you and that car. The room went silent. He smiled, I continued, like I was interrupting something he owned. She sat down heavily. You never told me, she whispered. I didn't want that picture in your head, I said. I wanted it in mine instead. She pressed her hands to her face. So every time you said no, she began. Was because I remembered that car slowing down, I finished. She didn't speak for a long time. When she finally did, her voice was quiet. That still doesn't explain everything. I nodded. You're right. She looked up sharply. There's more. I hesitated. Yes, I said. My heart pounded. What? She asked. I swallowed. There were nights, I said, when I heard him outside again. Her eyes widened. Outside. Near your window, I said. She stood up suddenly. You're lying. I shook my head. I wish I was. Why didn't you call the police? She demanded. I looked at her carefully. Do you know how many women weren't believed back then? I asked. Do you know how many mothers were told they were overreacting? She opened her mouth, then closed it. I scared him off, I said, every time. How? She asked. By letting him see I was watching, I replied. By making myself the problem. Her eyes filled with tears. So you let me hate you, she whispered. Yes, I said. So you could feel free. She sat back down slowly, her anger dissolving into something else. Confusion. Pain. Regret. I thought you didn't trust me, she said. I trusted you with my life, I replied. I didn't trust the world. She covered her mouth. I blamed you, she whispered, for years. I know, I said. She looked at me then, really looked. You carried this alone, she asked. Yes, I replied. Her shoulders began to shake. I was angry at you for nothing, she cried. No, I said gently. You were angry because you didn't know. She looked up suddenly. Is he still alive? My heart skipped. I don't know, I said. Her eyes hardened. Then I need to know who he was. I stood up slowly. No, I said. She frowned. Why not? Because some doors, I replied, don't just open memories, they open danger. She stared at me. You can't keep protecting me forever. I looked at her. I already did, I said. Now I'm protecting myself. She shook her head. I deserve the truth. You deserve peace, I replied, not nightmares. She wiped her tears. I need time, she said quietly. So do I replied. She grabbed her bag and headed for the door. Before leaving, she turned back. Mom, she asked. Yes. If everything you said is true. It is, I said. Her voice trembled. Then what else do I know? The door closed behind her. I stood alone in the silence, my chest tight, my hands shaking. Because I knew the answer to her question. And I knew something else too. She had only just begun to understand my protection. And when the full truth came out, it would change how she saw her entire childhood. And maybe, how she saw herself. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. After she left, the house felt heavier than before. Not empty. Heavy. Like the walls had been listening all these years and were finally allowed to remember. I stood by the door long after it closed, my hand still on the handle. My daughter's question stayed in the air. What else do I know? I whispered the answer to myself. So much. I walked slowly back to the living room and sat down. My knees ached, but I didn't move again. I stared at the floor, at a small scratch near the table leg she used to trip over when she was little. I remembered how I used to scoop her up, laugh, kiss her knee, tell her she was okay. I always said she was okay, even when I wasn't sure. That night, I did not sleep. Every memory came back, one after another, like they had been waiting for permission. After the first time I scared him off, I thought it was over. I prayed it was over. I told myself he would move on, find another street, another child, another weakness. But fear doesn't leave that easily. A few weeks later, my daughter came home quiet. Too quiet. She dropped her bag and went straight to her room. I followed her. What's wrong? I asked. She shrugged. Nothing. Mothers know when nothing is a lie. I sat on the edge of her bed. Did someone say something to you? She hesitated. Then she nodded. My heart dropped. Who? I asked gently. She stared at the floor. Him. That was all she said. I didn't need more. What did he say? I asked. She swallowed. He said I was pretty. My chest burned. And, I asked. He said I shouldn't tell you, she whispered. Something broke inside me then. I smiled anyway, because that's what I had learned to do. What did you say? I asked. I said okay, she replied. I hugged her so tight she laughed and told me to stop squeezing. That laugh saved her. She didn't know it, but it did. That night, I did not sleep again. I sat by her door until morning. From that day on, I watched everything. Not just him. Everyone. Teachers. Neighbors. Friends' parents. I became the mother people whispered about. Overprotective. Paranoid. Too much. I wore those words like armor. Because they were better than the alternative. Years later, when she was older, she begged me again and again to let her go places. Everyone else can go. You don't trust me. You're ruining everything. I took it. I took all of it. I grounded her when she stayed out late. I checked her phone when she slept. I waited up until she came home every time. I saw her roll her eyes. I heard her cry behind closed doors. And every time, I told myself the same thing. She's alive. She's safe. That has to be enough. The next morning after our talk, my phone rang. Her name flashed on the screen. My heart jumped. I answered. Mom, she said quietly. Yes. I can't stop thinking, she said. I nodded even though she couldn't see me. Neither can I. There are gaps, she said. In my memory, things that don't make sense. My chest tightened. Like what? I asked carefully. I remember being scared, she said, but I never knew why. I closed my eyes. You don't have to dig, I said gently. Some answers don't heal. She was silent for a moment. Then she said something that made my breath catch. I think I blocked something out. My hands started shaking. Why do you think that? I asked. She hesitated. Because when you talked about the car, I felt sick, like my body remembered before my mind did. I pressed my hand to my chest. That's trauma, I said softly. It hides. So you think something happened? She asked. I think something almost did, I replied. She exhaled shakily. Almost feels just as bad. I didn't argue. Mom, she said, did he ever touch me? That question felt like a knife. No, I said firmly. Never. I would never lie about that. She breathed out slowly. But, she whispered. I closed my eyes. But he wanted to, I said. Silence. Then a small voice. How do you know? I thought of the way he smiled. The way he whispered. The way he looked angry when I stood between him and her. Because I've seen that hunger before, I said, and I refuse to let it reach you. She started crying. Not loud. Broken. I hated you, she whispered, for so long. I know, I said. I told people you were controlling, she said. I told them you ruined my childhood. And you survived, I said gently. She sobbed harder. You were protecting me, she said. Yes, I replied. Why didn't anyone protect you? She asked. That question hurt in a different way. I didn't need protecting, I said. I needed strength. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said something that made my heart race. I want to find him. I sat up straight. No, I said immediately. I need answers, she replied. You don't need him for answers, I said. I need the truth, she insisted. The truth already lives in you, I said, and it's enough. She was breathing fast now. What if he did this to someone else? She asked. That question haunted me too. I've asked myself that for years, I admitted. So why didn't you stop him? She asked. My voice dropped. I did, I said, as much as one woman could. She was quiet again. Then she said something that changed everything. I remember his face. My heart stopped. Mom, she whispered, I remember him standing too close. I couldn't speak. I don't remember what happened next. She continued, but I remember feeling scared and then you. Tears streamed down my face. You came, she said. You always came. Yes, I whispered. I always will. She inhaled sharply. Mom, she said, her voice trembling, what if there's more I don't remember? I looked at the wall, at the years etched into it. Because deep down, I had always feared this moment. The moment when protection wasn't enough anymore. When memory came knocking. And I knew one thing for sure. If the truth came out fully, it would not just change her past. It would change who she thought she was. And who I had been all along. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. After that phone call, I sat very still. The house was quiet, but my chest felt loud. My heart beat in slow, heavy thumps, like it was trying to warn me of something I already knew. Memory had started to wake up. And once memory wakes up, it does not ask permission. I walked to the sink and ran cold water over my hands. They were shaking, not from fear alone, but from the weight of knowing I could no longer protect her the same way. When she was little, I could step in front of danger. Now, danger lived inside questions. She came over later that evening. I heard her car pull up and felt my stomach tighten. When she knocked, I opened the door immediately. She looked tired. Her eyes were red. Her shoulders slumped like she had been carrying something heavy all day. I couldn't stay home, she said. Every corner felt loud. I nodded. Sit. She sat on the couch, the same couch she used to curl up on with her dolls. I brought her a glass of water, my hands still unsteady. I keep remembering pieces, she said quietly. Not full pictures, just feelings. I sat across from her. Like what? I asked. She swallowed. Like being watched, like being told to be quiet, like knowing something was wrong but not knowing why. I closed my eyes. Those were the pieces I had hoped would stay buried. I don't want to make things worse, I said softly, "but I won't lie to you." She nodded. "I don't want lies anymore." I took a deep breath. "There were times," I said slowly, "when I saw him watching you from places he didn't belong." Her jaw tightened. "There were times I followed you without you knowing," I continued. "Not because I didn't trust you, because I didn't trust him." Tears slid down her face. "You were always there," she whispered. "Yes," I said, "even when you didn't see me." She wiped her cheeks angrily. "I called you controlling." "I know," I replied. "I told people you were crazy," she said. "I know," I repeated. Her voice broke. "I told myself you ruined my childhood because it was easier than wondering why I felt scared for no reason." That truth landed hard. "Children blame what they can see," I said gently, "not what's hidden." She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "Mom," she said, "did you ever think something happened and I forgot?" My chest tightened. "Yes," I answered honestly. Her breath caught. "But I also knew," I continued, "that whatever almost happened didn't finish." She looked up at me sharply. "How can you be sure?" "Because you laughed," I said. "You slept, you trusted, you grew." She shook her head. "That doesn't mean nothing happened." "No," I agreed, "but it means you were not broken." She pressed her hands together. "I feel broken now." I reached across and held her hands. "You are opening old doors," I said. "That can feel like breaking, but sometimes it's healing trying to happen." She stared at our joined hands. "I don't know who I would be if I remembered everything," she whispered. I squeezed her hands gently. "You would still be you," I said. "Strong, alive here." She nodded slowly. Then she asked a question that made my heart sink. "Did anyone else know?" I hesitated. "Yes," I said quietly. Her eyes widened. "Who?" "A teacher once," I said, "and a neighbor." "What did they do?" she asked. I looked away. "Nothing," I said. Her mouth fell open. "Nothing." "They said I was imagining things," I replied. "They said I was dramatic." Anger flashed across her face. "So you were alone," she said. "Yes," I replied, "but I was loud enough for myself." She stood up suddenly and began packing. "This is unfair," she said. "You carried all of this alone and I hated you for it." "You didn't know," I said. "But now I do," she replied, "and I don't know what to do with it." She stopped packing and looked at me. "I keep seeing flashes," she said. "His smile, his voice, the way he leaned in." My heart began to race. "That means your mind is searching," I said carefully. "Not remembering fully, just testing." She swallowed. "What if it remembers more?" I looked at her, my daughter, my reason for surviving. "Then you won't be alone this time," I said. She nodded, tears spilling again. "I blamed you for ruining my childhood," she whispered. "But you were fighting a war I never saw." "Yes," I said softly. She sat back down and rested her head in her hands. "I don't know how to forgive myself," she said. "That comes later," I replied. "Right now, you need to be gentle with yourself." She looked up suddenly. "Mom," she said, her voice trembling, "what if he's still around?" My heart skipped. "I don't think so," I said, "but I can't promise." She stood very still. "I need to know," she said. "No," I replied firmly. She frowned. "You can't stop me from asking questions." "I can ask you to be careful," I said. "Some answers cost more than they give." She looked at the door, then back at me. "I feel like something is about to come back," she whispered. "Something big." I felt it too, because memory had already knocked. And the door was starting to open. I reached for her hand again. "Whatever comes," I said, "we face it together." She nodded slowly. Then she said the words that made my blood run cold. "I think I saw him last week." The room went silent. "What?" I whispered. "At the grocery store," she said. "I didn't know why he felt familiar, but now." My heart slammed against my ribs. Are you sure? I asked. She nodded. I can't stop seeing his face. I stood up slowly. Because if that was true, then the danger I thought was buried was not as far away as I believed. And protecting her might not be over yet. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The words she said stayed in the room like smoke. I think I saw him last week. My knees felt weak, but I did not sit down. I stayed standing because something inside me knew I had to be steady now. This was not the time to shake. Tell me everything, I said quietly. She swallowed and nodded. It was at the grocery store, she began. I was in the cereal aisle. I felt someone watching me. You know that feeling. I did. Your skin knows before your mind does. I turned, she continued, and there was this man. He was older, gray hair, but his eyes. Her voice cracked. His eyes felt wrong, she whispered. My chest tightened. What did he do? I asked. Nothing, she said. That's what scared me. He just stood there looking like he knew me. I sat down slowly this time. And you're sure it was him? I asked. She shook her head. I don't know, that's the problem, but my body reacted before my thoughts. I felt small, like I needed to get away. I closed my eyes. That was memory. Not clear pictures, but feelings. He didn't say anything, I asked. No, she replied, but when I walked away, I swear he smiled. My hands curled into fists. The same smile. The one I never forgot. Did you tell anyone? I asked. She shook her head. I didn't know how to explain it. I thought I was imagining things until we talked. I leaned back in my chair, my heart pounding. I thought he was gone, I whispered. She looked at me sharply. You knew him. I hesitated. Yes, I said. I knew where he worked. I knew his routines. Her eyes widened. You never told me that. I didn't want you to be afraid of places that should feel safe, I replied. She pressed her hands together. What if he recognized me? That's possible, I said carefully. Her breathing quickened. What if he's been watching me all this time? I reached out and took her hands. Listen to me, I said firmly. You are not that little girl anymore, and you are not alone. She nodded, but fear still sat in her eyes. I feel like my childhood is breaking open, she said. Like everything I believed about myself is changing. That happens when truth comes up, I said. It rearranges things. She wiped her face. I don't know who to be angry at. That's okay, I replied. Anger doesn't need a name right away. She looked down. I was angry at you because it was safer. I nodded. I know. We sat in silence for a while. Then she asked softly, what did you do after you saw him watching me? I swallowed. I changed everything, I said. Where we went, how we walked when we came home. You never told me, she said. I couldn't, I replied. You were already carrying too much. She looked up at me. What if I want to know everything now? I met her eyes. Then you need to understand, I said slowly, that knowing everything means feeling everything. She nodded. I'm already feeling it. I sighed. Then I'll tell you what I can. She leaned forward. He tried to talk to you again after that night, I said. A few weeks later. Her face went pale. I wasn't with you, I continued. You were walking with a friend. She squeezed my hands tighter. I saw him step toward you, I said, and I stepped in front of him. Her voice was barely a whisper. What did he say? He said I was overreacting, I replied. He said you were friendly. Her jaw tightened. Friendly. That's how they excuse themselves, I said. They make you sound willing. She shuddered. I told him, I continued, that if he ever came near you again, I would make noise. Loud noise. What kind of noise? She asked. The kind people can't ignore, I said. She stared at me. Were you scared? Yes, I replied honestly, but fear is easier to carry than regret. She leaned back and covered her face. I don't remember any of this, she said. That's okay, I replied. Your mind protected you too. She looked up suddenly. Do you think he hurt someone else? She asked. That question had lived in my chest for decades. I don't know, I said, and that's something I've prayed about more than anything. Her eyes filled with tears. If he's still around, she said, what do we do? I thought for a long moment. We stay aware, I said. We stay together, and we don't let fear decide our lives. She nodded slowly. Then she said something that made my heart race again. Mom, she whispered, what if he knows I remember? I felt a chill move through me. If he does, I said carefully, then he may try to control the story again. She swallowed hard. I don't want to be quiet anymore, she said. I looked at her. That was the moment I had both feared and hoped for. You don't have to be, I said. She stood up and walked toward the window, staring outside like she was searching for something. I feel like something is about to happen, she said. I felt it too. Because once truth starts to surface, it doesn't stop halfway. It keeps coming. And if he was really still nearby, then the danger I thought I ended years ago was waking up again. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. That night she stayed. She slept in the old bedroom down the hall, the one with the faded curtains and the dresser that still held her childhood stickers inside the drawers. I lay awake listening to the house breathe, every small sound pulling at my nerves. I hadn't felt this alert in years. Not since she was little. I got up twice to check the doors. I locked them, then checked them again. Old habits came back fast when fear returned. Fear never forgets the way home. Around midnight, I heard her crying. Soft at first, like she didn't want to wake me. I walked to her door and knocked gently. It's me. She sat up when I entered, her face wet with tears. I keep seeing his face, she said, but it keeps changing. Sometimes he's old, sometimes he's younger. That's how memory works, I said, sitting beside her. It mixes past and present. She rubbed her arms. I feel stupid. You feel human, I replied. She shook her head. All those years I told myself you were the problem. I touched her shoulder. That story kept you safe. She looked at me. And what did you tell yourself all those years? I hesitated. That I had to be stronger than fear, I said, every single day. She stared at me for a long moment. I don't think I could have done what you did, she said. You don't know that, I replied. You're doing it now. She wiped her face. By remembering. Yes, I said, by not running from the truth. She nodded slowly. Mom, she said, her voice quiet, what if I see him again? I thought carefully before answering. Then you don't ignore that feeling, I said. You leave, you call me, you trust your body. She nodded. And if he talks to you, she asked. My voice dropped. You owe him nothing, not politeness, not silence. She exhaled slowly, like those words had lifted something heavy. I wish you had told me earlier, she whispered. I wish the world had been safer, I replied. The next morning, we went out together. I didn't want her alone, and she didn't argue. We walked into the sunlight like two women relearning how to share space. She held her keys tight in her hand, the way I used to hold mine. We went to the grocery store. Not because we needed anything. Because fear grows when you avoid places. As we walked in, I felt my body tense automatically. I scanned faces without meaning to. Old instincts woke up, sharp and fast. Do you see him? She whispered. No, I replied, but we stay aware. We walked slowly down the aisles. Then she stopped. Her grip on the cart tightened. Mom, she said quietly, I feel it again. My heart dropped. I followed her eyes. And then I saw him. Older, slower, but unmistakable. The way he stood too close to the shelf. The way his eyes lingered too long. Time collapsed. I was back in my 30s, back in fear, back in rage. That's him, she whispered. Yes, I said. He turned his head slightly, like he felt our eyes on him. Our gazes met. His smile flickered. Not friendly. Testing. My heart pounded, but I stepped forward. Between him and her. Just like before. He looked at me longer this time. Recognition passed through his eyes. Then annoyance. Then something darker. You still hovering, he muttered. My daughter stiffened. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't smile. You stay away from her, I said clearly. Other shoppers slowed. He laughed lightly, always dramatic. I leaned closer, my voice calm and steady. You don't get to speak to us, I said, and you don't get to stand near her. His smile vanished. For a moment, I thought he might say something else. But then he stepped back and walked away. My daughter's knees nearly gave out. We left the store immediately. In the car, she shook uncontrollably. That was him, she whispered. That was really him. Yes, I said. And he knew, she added. He knew you remembered. Yes, I said again. She looked at me with terror and something else. Understanding. He's not done, she said. I didn't answer right away. Because deep down, I knew she was right. People like him don't like being seen. And now, he had been seen. That afternoon, my phone rang. An unknown number. I stared at it. Then it rang again. I answered. There was breathing on the other end. Slow. Controlled. Then a voice I hadn't heard in decades. You should have stayed quiet. My blood ran cold. Because the past had finally stopped hiding. And I knew. Whatever protection I once gave in silence would now have to happen in the open. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I did not hang up the phone right away. My hand was shaking, but I kept it pressed to my ear, listening to his breathing on the other side. It was slow, like he wanted me to know he was calm, like he wanted me to feel small again. You should have stayed quiet, he said again. I closed my eyes. After all these years, his voice still sounded the same. Older, yes, rougher, but the tone was familiar. The same tone that made my skin crawl decades ago. You don't get to speak to me, I said quietly. He laughed, a short, dry sound. You never knew when to mind your business. My heart beat hard, but my voice stayed steady. My child was my business. Silence followed. Then he said something that made my stomach twist. She remembers now, doesn't she? I felt my chest tighten. You stay away from her, I said slowly. If you come near her again. You'll do what? He interrupted. Yell, make noise, you did that before. I gripped the phone tighter. And it worked, I replied. He exhaled sharply. You think people will believe you now, after all this time? I don't need belief, I said. I need distance. He chuckled. You always were dramatic. I lowered my voice, and you were always watching. That stopped him. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he said, softer this time, you should talk to your daughter. She's the one digging. My heart skipped. What do you mean? I asked. He didn't answer. The line went dead. I stood there staring at the phone, my whole body buzzing like I had just touched something dangerous. He knew. Not just that she remembered, but that she was asking questions. My daughter was sitting on the couch when I walked back into the living room. Her face was pale, her eyes wide. Who was that? She asked. I sat down slowly. It was him, I said. Her breath caught. What did he want? To scare us, I replied, to remind me of my place. She hugged herself tightly. He called you. Yes. Her voice trembled. How did he get your number? I shook my head. I don't know. That scared me more than the call itself. Because it meant he was closer than we thought. Watching again. How long has he known where you live? she asked. I don't know, I said honestly, but he knows now. She stood up suddenly and began packing. This is my fault. No, I said firmly, this is not your fault. If I hadn't started remembering. This would have come back anyway, I interrupted. Truth doesn't stay buried forever. She stopped packing and looked at me. He sounded confident. Yes, I said. People like him always do when they think time protects them. She swallowed. Do you think he's done this to someone else? I thought of all the years, all the children on that street, all the moments I wasn't there. I don't know, I said, but that question has never left me. She sat back down, her hands shaking. I'm scared, she whispered. I reached for her and pulled her close. I know, I said, but listen to me. She looked up. He wants silence, I continued. He wants fear, he wants us to doubt ourselves. She nodded slowly. We don't give him that, I said. How? She asked. We stay visible, I replied. Together. That night, neither of us slept. We sat at the kitchen table with the light on, talking quietly, replaying everything. Every memory, every warning sign, every moment that now made sense. I remember you always checking the locks, she said softly. Yes, I replied. And walking me to the bus stop, even when I was embarrassed, she added. Yes. And sitting outside my room when I was sick, she said. Yes. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. You were protecting me, even when I hated you. I nodded. That was the deal I made with myself. She wiped her face. I don't hate you anymore. Those words healed something deep inside me. But healing did not erase danger. Around 2 a.m, there was a sound outside. A car slowing down. Both of us froze. We held our breath and listened. The car stopped. My heart pounded so loud, I was sure she could hear it. Then a door closed. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. My daughter grabbed my arm. Mom, she whispered. I stood up quietly and moved toward the window, careful not to make a sound. I peeked through the curtain just enough to see. A man stood under the streetlight, across from the house. Hands in his pockets. Looking straight at our window. I knew that shape. That posture. That stillness. He's here, I whispered. My daughter's grip tightened. What do we do? I straightened my back. The same way I had years ago. The same way I always did. We don't hide, I said, and we don't stay silent. I reached for my phone. Because this time, I was not protecting a child alone in the dark. This time, the truth was awake. And whatever happened next would not stay quiet. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I held my phone tight, but I did not dial right away. Across the street, he stood under the streetlight like he had nowhere else to be, like time had waited for him. The light hit his face just enough for me to see that smile again. Not friendly, not loud, a smile that asked a question. What are you going to do now? My daughter's breath came fast against my arm. Mom, she whispered, please. I lowered the curtain slowly. He wants us to react, I said quietly. Fear is his language. She shook her head. He shouldn't be here. I know, I replied, and he knows we see him. We stood together in the dark living room, the house holding its breath with us. Minutes passed, maybe longer. My knees ached, but I did not move. Finally, the man turned and walked back to his car. Slow. Unhurried. Like he knew he could return whenever he wanted. The engine started. The car pulled away. Only then did I let myself breathe. My daughter sank onto the couch, shaking. I sat beside her and wrapped my arm around her shoulders. He came to remind us, I said. Not to attack, not yet. She looked up at me. Remind us of what? That he's still watching, I replied, and that he thinks silence will come back. She wiped her face. I don't want to be quiet anymore. I looked at her carefully. Then you have to understand what that means. Her voice was steady now. I do. The next day felt unreal. Sunlight filled the kitchen. Birds made noise outside. The world behaved like nothing had happened. That made it worse. Danger hides best when everything looks normal. We sat at the table, drinking coffee. Neither of us wanted. I keep thinking about what he said, she said. About me digging. Yes, I replied. That tells us something. What? She asked. He's worried, I said. People who aren't worried don't call at night. She nodded slowly. I want to tell someone, she said. Who? I asked. She thought for a moment. My husband and my sister. I felt a small wave of relief. That's good. You're not mad, she asked. No, I replied. Secrets only protect the wrong people. She swallowed. I wish I had known that earlier. So do I said, but you know it now. That afternoon, she made the calls. I listened from the other room, my heart pounding with every word she spoke. I heard her voice break. I heard her steady herself. I heard silence on the other end of the line. When she finished, she came back to me. They believe me, she said softly. Tears filled my eyes. That matters, I replied. Later that evening, there was another call. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang again. And again. Then a message came through. You're making this worse for her. My hands shook. I typed back once. You don't get to speak for her. The reply came fast. She should stop asking questions. My daughter read it over my shoulder. Her face hardened. He's afraid. Yes, I said, and fear makes people reckless. She took a deep breath. Then we need to be careful. Yes, I agreed, and we need witnesses. That word felt powerful. Witnesses. That night, we did not sit in the dark. We turned on lights. We kept the curtains open. We lived loudly inside our own home. If he wanted to watch, he would watch women who were not hiding. Around 9, my phone buzzed again. Another message. This time, it was different. You think you know everything. You don't. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? My daughter asked. I stared at the screen. It means he's trying to confuse us, I said, to make us doubt what we know. She crossed her arms. It's not working. I nodded. Good. But even as I said it, something cold settled in my chest. Because people like him don't threaten without reason. They hint. They suggest. They circle. And then they act. Close to midnight, I heard a sound at the back of the house. Not loud. Not sudden. A soft scrape. My daughter looked at me, eyes wide. Did you hear that? She whispered. Yes, I replied. Another sound came, slow, careful. Like someone testing a boundary. My heart began to race. I reached for my phone again, my fingers hovering. Outside, a shadow passed the kitchen window. I held my breath. Because this time, he wasn't watching from across the street. He was close. Too close. And I knew, with terrifying clarity, that whatever he planned to do next would force the truth fully into the open. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. My body moved before my fear did. I stood up slowly and placed myself between the window and my daughter. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was trying to escape my chest, but my mind stayed clear. Stay here, I whispered. She nodded, her eyes wide, her hand covering her mouth. Another sound came from the back of the house. A footstep. Light, careful. The kind of step someone takes when they don't want to be heard. I reached for the light switch and turned it on. Bright light filled the kitchen. Silence followed. Whoever was outside froze. I didn't move. I didn't rush. I stood still, just like I had years ago when fear tried to test me. You are not welcome here, I said loudly. My voice did not shake. My daughter's breath came fast behind me. We waited. Seconds passed. Then the shadow moved again. I saw it clearly now, sliding across the wall near the window. A hand brushed against the glass. My stomach dropped. "He's trying the window," my daughter whispered. "Yes," I said. I grabbed my phone and pressed a button, keeping my eyes on the glass. "Who are you calling?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Someone who will hear us," I replied. The ringing felt too loud in the quiet house. Outside, the shadow pulled back slightly, like he was listening. The call connected. I spoke clearly. "There is a man outside my home," I said. "He has been stalking us." The word felt heavy and right. "Stalking." The shadow shifted. I raised my voice, not caring if he heard. "He has been watching my daughter since she was a child," I continued. "He is here now." My daughter gasped. The shadow froze. I stepped closer to the window, my voice steady and loud. "You need to leave," I said, looking straight at the glass. "You are being seen." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the shadow moved fast. Footsteps ran along the side of the house. A door slammed. An engine started. We stood there shaking, the sound of the car fatting into the night. Only then did my legs weaken. I sat down hard in the chair, my heart racing. My daughter collapsed beside me, crying. "You were so calm," she sobbed. "How?" "I've practiced," I replied softly, "for years." The night passed slowly after that. We didn't sleep. We sat together until morning light crept through the windows, both of us exhausted but alive. When the sun finally rose, my daughter looked at me with red, tired eyes. "He didn't expect that," she said. "No," I replied. "He expected silence." She nodded slowly. "He won't stop." "I know," I said. "What do we do now?" she asked. I looked at her carefully. "Now," I said, "we stop protecting him with our quiet." Her eyes widened. "You mean tell people?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. "Not everyone, but the right ones." She swallowed. "That makes it real." "It's already real," I said gently. "Saying it out loud just takes his power." She sat very still. Then she nodded. "I don't want to carry this alone anymore," she said. "You don't have to," I replied. Later that morning, she went home to shower and change. I stayed behind, walking through my house slowly. Every corner felt different now. Exposed, but also honest. I gathered my notebook and sat at the table. I wrote everything down. The calls, the messages, the shadow at the window, the voice from the phone. Every detail. Because truth needs memory. That afternoon, my daughter returned with her husband. He hugged me tight when he saw me. "I'm so sorry," he said. "It's not your fault," I replied. He looked serious. "We believe her." Those words mattered. We sat together and talked, slowly, carefully. When we finished, my daughter took a deep breath. "I want to say his name," she said. My heart jumped. "You don't have to," I said quickly. "I want to," she replied. "I don't want him to stay faceless anymore." I closed my eyes. Some names stay buried for a reason. But some need air. "Are you sure?" I asked. She nodded. "Yes," she said, "because he shouldn't hide behind my silence." I swallowed hard. I opened my notebook to the page I had never shown anyone. The page with his name. I slid it across the table. Her hands shook as she read it. Then she looked up at me, tears in her eyes. "That's him," she whispered. My heart cracked open. She stood up, her body shaking but her voice strong. "I'm done," she said. "I'm not scared anymore." I wish that were true. Because deep down, I knew something she didn't yet. Speaking his name would not end this quietly. It would wake something. And if he knew, we were no longer afraid. He would make one last attempt to regain control. Outside, a car slowed down on the street. I looked toward the window. My stomach tightened, because I knew that sound. And I knew. The car outside slowed, then moved on. I did not jump this time. I did not freeze. I watched it pass, my hand resting on the table, my daughter standing beside me, her husband close. The fear that once ruled my chest felt different now, smaller, tired. Like something that had finally been named and no longer owned the room. He knows we remember, my daughter said softly. Yes, I replied, and that's what scares him. We didn't chase the sound. We didn't look outside again. We stayed where we were together in the open, with lights on and voices steady. That night ended quietly. Not because danger was gone, but because silence no longer belonged to him. The days that followed were heavy but honest. My daughter talked, slowly at first, then more freely. She spoke to her sister, to her husband, to a close friend she trusted. Every time she said the words out loud, something shifted. Her shoulders lowered, her voice grew steadier, her eyes stopped flinching at shadows. I thought you ruined my childhood, she said to me one afternoon as we sat on the porch. But you were fighting so hard I never even saw the battle. I looked at her, my baby grown into a woman. I wanted you to have a childhood, I said, not a warning. She took my hand. You gave me one. That was when something inside me finally rested. A week later, the messages stopped. No calls. No unknown numbers. No slow cars at night. He disappeared the way he always should have. Not because of threats, but because he was seen. And people like him do not survive light. One evening, my daughter stood in my kitchen, looking around the room. I blamed you for years, she said quietly. I told myself you were the reason I felt trapped. I nodded. I know. She looked up, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry. That apology mattered more than anything else. You don't owe me guilt, I said. You owe yourself peace. She smiled through tears. I'm starting to feel it. Later that night, after everyone left, I sat alone by the window. The same window I once guarded in silence. The same window fear once watched from the outside. I whispered the truth to myself, the truth that had carried me through every lonely night, every accusation, every misunderstanding. My daughter said I ruined her childhood. I smiled gently. She doesn't know what I protected her from. Not because she was weak, but because she deserved to grow without knowing how close danger came. And if I had to carry that fear alone for the rest of my life, I would do it again. Because that is what mothers do. Not because we want to be heroes, but because love sometimes means standing in the dark so your child can stay in the light. And now, I was finally seen too. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more emotional stories like this. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Somewhere out there, I might be reading.